This is Mr. Mark Duke. He is a close friend of my family. Today, he flew in from Houston, Texas just for this evening. I will be interviewing him today to learn a little more about his job.
Hello.
Where exactly do you work?
I work for NASA, National Aeronautics and Space Administration, the space agency.
So, what do you actually do there?
Well, what I do is I work in Houston, Texas, and the NASA Center in Houston. The big thing that we focus on there is human spaceflight, flying people in space.
How long have you been working for NASA?
I've been working for NASA. The first time I went to NASA, I had just graduated high school, and it was called a summer internship. So it's kind of where you spend a few weeks working in the summer between high school and college, or between 1 year of college and another year, and you kind of do little projects to gain experience and sort of learn, take the things that you learn in school and kind of put them together into doing a job. Mm-hmm. And you were asking me about my job, about what I work on over at NASA. So right now, I've done several different jobs out there at NASA. The thing that I'm working on now is with this project called the Commercial Crew Program, and we're working on developing and working with companies to build and develop spaceships that fly to space. What they're going to do is fly astronauts up to the space station.
So, can you tell me how far away from your job do you live?
Living every day when I go to NASA, I actually live, it's interesting you say that, I live 13.1 miles away. That's what it says on the odometer. So when I go back and forth to work each day, that's 26.2 miles that I drive. And do you know how far that is if you were going to run? That's running a marathon. Marathon's exactly 26.2 miles. So usually I drive to work instead of running. So I drive a marathon instead of run a marathon. But it's pretty close. It's about 15, 20 minutes each day.
What's your favorite part of your job?
I think the favorite part of my job is, there's probably two favorite parts. One thing is all of the people that I get to work with at NASA are very excited and smart and dedicated and exciting about figuring things out, kind of pioneering the technologies that we need to let people live and work in space. So there's a lot of very interesting things happening each day. And I think the other thing that's really cool is kind of each day is different. There's sort of a different project that we're working on, or a different problem that we're trying to solve. So it's really exciting each day figuring out something else that helps get astronauts flying to space, or figuring out ways to get astronauts flying out further and further into space, like back to the moon and onto Mars. So I think that's my favorite part each day.
So, have you worked with anyone famous?
Does Neil Armstrong count?
Yes.
Neil Armstrong was the first man on the moon, and besides Neil Armstrong, there's actually many other really interesting people that I've worked with. Astronauts like Joe Engle, who flew the X-15, that was one of the fastest airplanes ever built. He also flew the second flight of the space shuttle, the first time any rocket was ever reused and flown in space again. Besides astronauts, I've also worked with a lot of very famous scientists and engineers and researchers. Some people, when I was going to school, I read about them in books, and science books and textbooks for the things that they discovered, things that they figured out. And it was really exciting for me going to NASA and then getting to work with people, men and women who are like childhood heroes, people that you read about and you read about the things they did, and now here I was learning from them and getting to work on projects with them. And for me, that's been very exciting.
Now we have a special guest appearance from Chantal, pop sensation, and her husband.
So, Mr. Mark, have you ever flown a plane alone?
Actually, I have. I've flown a plane alone a whole bunch of times because I'm also a pilot, so I have a commercial pilot's license with instrument rating, complex, high performance, and tail wheel endorsements. Those are all special.
Okay.
Oh.
So, do you still get that feeling in your tummy when you're like diving the plane down, or are you used to it?
I think I know what you're talking about. Every time I'm in an airplane, I'm excited, but I have been in an airplane before, a special NASA airplane, where you actually float, just like you're in space. So what this NASA airplane does is what we do in the plane is we use it to test out tools and materials that astronauts use. So once they're in space, we test it out here on Earth to make sure that the experiments and tools that the astronauts will use work. And if we need to make any changes, we can change things here, test it again, so that way by the time they go and fly in space, we know that everything works the way it's supposed to.
That's really fascinating.
Now, Mark, can you confirm, is the moon really made of cheese?
I don't have the security clearance yet to eat a piece of the moon, but when I do, you'll be the first to get an answer to that question from me. Deal? All right.
Now I want to get a special thanks to Mr. Mark Duke for flying in here all the way from Houston, Texas, just for this interview.
All the way from Houston, Texas, just for this interview. It's my pleasure, Nicholas.